And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
We just told you the story of the Girl Scout troop that got their cookies stolen in Alameda. Penny writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and says, now you need a gun to sell Girl Scout cookies.
Boy, it's tough being a 4-year-old.
Quite frankly.
You need some muscle just to move the Samoas. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, one of the ways that California has deteriorated over time is how dirty and filthy we look all over the place. It used to be that it was primarily just graffiti that made the area look like blight. But now it's not just the graffiti. It is people abandoning things like couches and chairs and broken down televisions just on the side of the road, broken down RVs parked where they're not supposed to, people emptying out, if you know what I mean, those broken down RVs where they're not supposed to. Our entire region needs to be power washed. And, Randy, it's not just in Southern California that's looking dirty. So is Sacramento.
There's a neighborhood in North Sacramento that is sick and tired of being the dumping ground for all the trash in the city.
Where if you have trash and you don't want to pay a fee at the dump, you just take it to this one particular neighborhood and drop it on the side of the road, and that's what's expected.
I bet every city has one of these. In Oakland, it's all of Oakland.
Well, I don't know where it is in Los Angeles. It used to be Kevin De Leon's district.
So now it's Isabel Jurado's district. For more, here is ABC 10 in Sacramento.
Well, neighbors in North Sacramento say they are sick and tired of being used as a dumping ground. Literally, they see piles of trash and unwanted items left in their neighborhood by people who refuse to dispose of it properly. Now, after countless...
How many stained mattresses do these people have to see every week?
Oh, God. What was once the cradle of someone's love is now landfill.
Now, after countless pleas for help to the city, these neighbors tell ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen they're fed up and calling for change. Tonight, Jeannie shares with us their concerns and how the city is responding.
They're not responding.
If it was in Oakland, they'd really not be responding.
Ramona Landeros has called North Sacramento home since the 1970s.
I don't think we needed this to set up the story.
No, but I have a feeling when they get asked about the trash, I know what her answer is going to be. No me gusta.
She and her family have worked hard to establish roots in the Del Paso Heights neighborhood. But seeing her home be a dumping ground is a difficult reality to face.
They're dumping everything from refrigerators to furniture, anything that they don't want to pay for at the dump. We basically get it in our neighborhoods.
Public records show 2 zip codes.
You know, Randy, there was an episode of Punky Brewster where someone did that. They dumped an old broken down refrigerator in their yard. And then one of the kids got stuck in there and I think suffered brain damage.
Public records show 2 zip codes saw a majority of illegal dumping calls to 311 for nearly 2 years.
There's little trash piles everywhere.
The city received more than 3,100 inquiries in 95838 and more than 2,600 to the 95815 zip code.
Boy, the next time I drive to Northern California, I'm going to load up the back of my car with all of my crap, and I know where to offload it.
Well, you know, if Sacramento was closer to the ocean, you know where all this trash would be ending up.
Yep.
These are one of many down the street.
These areas are typically considered low income and have a large non-English speaking community.
Just because we live in Del Paso Heights doesn't mean we don't care. It doesn't mean that we're going to accept this.
The city received 237 calls of illegal dumping along Rio Linda Boulevard in the span of 2 years. 161.
Wait, 237 calls based on dumping on one street?
Yep. That's a lot of trash.
Okay, for that to happen, it must be businesses are doing it. It can't just be people who live in the area that are doing it. Word has to have gotten out. This is where you just get rid of all your stuff.
Well, we know what happened in Southern California when they changed all of the trash contracts to have these little monopolies for different districts with the Recycler program, and they started jacking up the trash fees and the recycling fees for apartment buildings and businesses. A lot of business owners said, screw it, I'm just going to dump it in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah, and didn't it all end up in Holly Mitchell's district?
Yes, it did.
161 reports on Harris Avenue and 135 reports on Roanoke Avenue.
You know, I can be driving down Del Paso Boulevard here, and everything's fine, and then later in the afternoon, there's already a pile of garbage there. People do it in broad daylight.
Well, of course. Do you think that cities in California today have the resources to go after people dumping trash?
No, but we have cameras everywhere. This entire state looks like Jeffrey Epstein's island. Everything that happens here is on videotape. Well, if you're driving in your truck with trash and you dump it on the side of the road, in theory, don't we have your license plate from every possible angle?
Somehow we have more cameras than ever, and none of it gets used as evidence.
No.
Our team caught people dumping illegally in broad daylight on Rio Linda Boulevard.
Everybody has a little garden across the street. We all take our time out to come and cultivate our flowers and our plants.
The Altos Avenue Neighborhood Garden is a point
What are you planting? Blown out tires?
The Altos Avenue Neighborhood Garden is a point of pride for Nancy Azevedo. But it wasn't always the case.
In the past year, this dumping just became outrageous. And it's just so disgusting.
Well, if what they're dumping is that disgusting, then maybe her flowers will be award-winning next year.
What was the story? It was Holly Mitchell's district. This was like a year ago.
It was
maybe
rancid beef.
Rancid pork.
That's right.
Some restaurant had a whole bunch of bad meat, and they dumped it in Holly's district in unincorporated LA County.
Repeatedly.
She and her neighbors have called 311 many times and brought their issues to city council meetings. Records show there were more than 100 calls to 311 about illegal dumping on Altos Avenue. Azevedo believes the city prioritizes certain neighborhoods over others.
Well, that's how politics works.
Yes. You write campaign checks, they pay attention to you. You have powerful unions, they pay attention to you. You're a developer, they pay attention to you. You just have broken down refrigerators being dumped on your garden, they don't care.
Well, our taxes aren't as high as, say, Land Park, so we don't get as much services. Well, that just doesn't seem right to us, so we've organized.
Azevedo formed her own cleanup crew who also maintains this neighborhood garden, while the city reimburses for some cleanup efforts and acknowledged Azevedo with the certificate.
Wait a minute. After they just told us that everyone in town takes all of their disgusting garbage and trash, the next paragraph in the story is about how they all eat out of that garden? Would you eat those carrots?
Not only that, they are now picking up the trash, and they're billing the city for it.
What do you think carrots taste like after they've been watered with motor oil?
With this certificate for taking initiative, she and other residents feel the city does not follow through on 311 calls and are calling for more accountability.
There's no way any city, whether it's LA, whether it's San Francisco, Oakland, Sacramento, they don't fulfill 99% of 311 requests.
No. If you were to get back at your councilman lady, you just make him a salad from that garden.
It doesn't seem like the city cares because we don't feel that they're doing enough for our community. They've got to start doing something, whatever it takes. You know, they kind of depend on people to call it in, and people don't want to get involved because they're afraid of retaliation.
Retaliation?
The city's going to dump even more garbage in front of your house.
Well, what? Are they dumping bodies there, too?
Even though residents here in North Sacramento are fed up with all of the illegal dumping, city officials do say there are deterrents in place to try to curb the problem.
Doesn't seem like they're working.
Nope.
We have cameras which are located around the...
Cameras don't do anything.
If you have the cameras and it's trucks that are coming in and dumping all of the trash, then you have all of the license plate numbers. Then you just run the license plate numbers and go make an arrest.
We have cameras which are located around the city, and we'll kind of identify a hotspot and then put a camera there.
The city's public works
And then were there arrests made or tickets or anything?
Okay, if they're alleging that this neighborhood is so bucolic and it's all of these people from all over the community that are dumping their trash there, I want to know what the neighborhood looked like before. How much you want to bet people were parking on the lawn? How much you want to bet that they were dumping their stuff on the street and everyone just got the idea, these people don't care, so let's just dump everything there?
The city's public works department says it relies on people reporting dumping issues to 311, and crews aim to address the problem within 3 days.
Wait a minute. Rio Linda, is that what they just said?
Yes.
Okay. Isn't that what Rush Limbaugh used to always refer to whenever a caller would call in and make no sense and they were a little slow, and he'd say they were from Rio Linda?
People who do call those in can get up to $1,000. So $500 to $1,000 could be awarded to...
Wait, we're awarding the trash finks $500 to snitch that someone dumped in front of your house?
Oh, yeah, but what municipality in this state actually pays that?
Well, and they're still not picking up the trash.
So $500 to $1,000 could be awarded to someone who gives us information leading to a citation or some kind of...
Oh, see, there's the thing. You'll get the $500 if we actually ticket somebody, which they don't.
Yeah, but you get $750 if they're unvaxxed.
Some kind of administrative penalty being given to an illegal dumper.
But the city acknowledges there is a problem primarily in North Sacramento, the District 2 area, adding that the people doing the dumping usually live within the neighborhood.
Kind of focus.
There you go. And Phillips is right again.
There are some people who drive past a giant pile of trash and they get ideas.
This is not some kind of big mystery. This is not who kidnapped the Lindbergh baby. Who's dumping the trash? We don't know who's dumping the trash. Well, they're doing it in broad daylight. There's cameras on every corner. We don't know who's doing the dumping. Oh, yeah? Open up your eyes. You all know who's doing the dumping.
The call's coming from inside the house.
Kind of focusing our efforts there, focusing cameras there, focusing advertising so that people know to...
You know, I've realized if you really want to be in a growth industry, you need to be whoever is the contractor that is providing local municipalities in California with crime cameras. Because all we're doing, every answer to everything is buying more cameras.
Well, and how about this latest one? They're doing PSAs telling people not to dump their trash on the side of the road?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I can just imagine that this is going to work out great. You know, I was driving around in my car, and I was thinking about dumping a stove that doesn't work anymore right there in front of an elementary school. But as I was listening to public radio, I heard a PSA telling me not to do that. So I decided to just keep driving right onto the dump and left it there after paying the fee.
Advertising so that people know to call into 311 and feel empowered to call about their own neighborhood.
A longtime resident of District 2 himself, Councilmember Roger Dickinson, says he understands the ongoing issues his neighborhood has experienced over the years.
He can smell it too.
This is why they're all afraid to report you, because it's the guy living next door that's doing it.
I've suggested the idea of even having the city assign a refuse truck that would just tour through neighborhoods that are...
It's having a roving garbage truck that's not scheduled on any routes. Just pick up whatever you see.
Oh, I'm sure the realtors are going to love that when they're showing properties.
Through neighborhoods that are victimized by illegal dumping, and just be there to pick it up when it happens.
He says he'll be working to make some long-term and effective changes and promises residents will see changes soon.
It's about time, and now we see something for the better happening.
No, we haven't seen that yet.
Nope. Wouldn't be on the news if there was change.
And with a large Hispanic community in the area, Dickinson says...
So you wouldn't know that it's a Hispanic community unless they played the mariachi music in the background.
This is the second time they played it.
And the first time was Feliz Navidad for some reason.
Yeah, what did they get the B-roll 2 months ago?
And with a large Hispanic community in the area, Dickinson says he'll work on making resources available for Spanish speakers. All of this in hopes of taking...
Kay Buena is going to be doing PSAs. Don't illegal dump, senor.
Well, I'll tell you, the entity that's going to make out from all of this is the Spanish radio stations.
All of this in hopes of taking back the neighborhood they love.
We want them to be proud of the neighborhood they live in and feel like, hey, I like living in my neighborhood.
We have some great
I live in a dump.
Literally.
great community here, great neighbors, great neighborhoods, a lot of families that really do care about their homes.
In North Sacramento, Jeannie Nguyen, ABC 10.
The city currently has 5 code officers for city waste issues and is in the process of hiring one other. Again, the city urges residents to report illegal dumping to 311. Links on how to do that can be found on our website. That's abc10.com.
But wait, that whole 5-minute piece was about how the 311 calls are not getting answered.
I'll tell you, the state of California is an odd place where we just live in totally different worlds. If you live in an HOA and there aren't a sufficient number of rocks around your mailbox, you will get letters threatening you at all hours of the day and night. If you have the wrong kind of flower in the wrong part of your yard, they will come over your house in helicopters, descend from cables, and cut them down in the middle of the night. And there are some places where you have a Maytag washing machine from 1952 that is no longer operational, and you just dump it on the side of the road, go right ahead. In fact, leave 2. What are you going to do? If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
John writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. When you've got a neighborhood that's full of stinking garbage and nobody's answering your 311 calls, that's what they call the broken windy theory.
Broken windy theory.
And Randy, if you missed our episode on Friday when we were live in Orange County and you want to find out what you missed out on, that's easy to do.
If you want to hear the show, I just posted it. Go to KABC.com, click on podcast, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. Do a Google on the YouTube or get that handy-dandy KABC app. Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store, the Android Store. It's the easiest way to listen live to this radio station and download all the podcasts. It's the hippest thing around. All the down-ass kids are doing it.
The neighborhood kids, the down-ass kids don't like it.
So President Trump just tweeted about a friend of the show.
Oh, yeah?
Here is what he put out moments ago. I am pleased to announce that Rick Grinnell will serve as the interim executive director of the Kennedy Center. Rick shares my vision for a golden age of American arts and culture and will be overseeing the daily operations of the center. Now in all caps. No more drag shows.
Oh, boy.
No more drag shows or other anti-American propaganda. Only the best. Rick, welcome to show business.
Boy, that guy's going to have his hands full.
Oh, my God. I love the world we live in. In the state of California, voters have proven to be getting tired of crime. We passed Prop 36, which would repeal Proposition 47, which was the worst proposition ever elected statewide or ever voted in statewide in terms of crime and punishment. We recalled Soros DAs in Los Angeles and Alameda County, and voters have proven in poll after poll that crime is a top concern. However, one of the problems that we have to deal with on an ongoing basis is, unfortunately, we have a number of people in black robes who are complete idiots, including in San Francisco.
And we have Brooke Jenkins, the great district attorney in San Francisco, who every single time she's ready to throw the book at some repeat offender jackass, the judges decide we'd rather slap that guy on the wrist.
You know what's funny is you talk to people about professions that are respected, and judges are always at the top of the list.
It's in the title, The Honorable.
They're fair. They're impartial. They're educated. They wear a black robe, and sometimes they have lace on the fringes. We have to have respect for them. But then you ask people, what do you think about attorneys? And they tell you what kind of slimeballs and unethical people they are. Well, guess what? All a judge is an attorney in a robe. So you have no respect for one profession. You have all the respect in the world for the other profession. It doesn't make sense.
For more on the judges screwing up public safety in San Francisco, here's KGO.
But now to a story new at 6 from the ABC 7 News I-Team.
We are dealing with a culture in our courthouse of judges being excessively lenient.
Who appointed those judges?
Yeah, people like Gavin Newsom and Jerry Brown and Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's who.
He had no prior convictions, no record.
It is perhaps the most important debate underway in San Francisco right now, how to combat crime. The DA is spotlighting yet another judge who she says is letting a dangerous criminal off easy. But the public defender argues the defendant deserves another chance.
Of course that's what the public defender's going to say.
They're paid to say that. The judge is supposed to have enough wisdom to know that they're full of it.
ABC 7 News I-Team reporter Dan Noyes has obtained evidence in an armed robbery spree and covered the sentencing hearing this week.
And he's here now with the latest. Dan.
Dan and Amma, over the past few years, I've highlighted various judges facing complaints that their easy sentences don't do enough to deter crime. And the public defender's office has always given me written statements for those reports. But tonight, their first interview in this ongoing and important debate.
Oh, boy.
You know, I think we'd be better off with Simon Cowell than half of these people.
The defendant, 25-year-old Gerardo Saavedra, grew up in the East Bay, graduated from Fairfield High, dreamed of playing professional soccer. But court exhibits obtained by the I-Team show on a Friday night in September 2023, he brought a ghost gun to San Francisco, dropped his girlfriend at a bar, and went on a 2-hour armed robbery spree.
Oh, my. Oh, Gerardo, you didn't read the rules, did you? You're only supposed to be able to use your feet, not a gun.
And went on a 2-hour armed robbery spree.
San Francisco 911.
Hi, we're at the Paramount 680 Mission, and we just got mugged.
His victim.
I know it shouldn't strike me as that funny, but it did.
680 Mission, and we just got mugged.
His victims, 5 women in their 20s, including some tourists out for an enjoyable evening. They told police Saavedra got their attention by racking his handgun.
What do you do with the gun when you first?
He just cocked it, or I heard the click.
Oh, you heard like a click sound?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is somebody we want back out on the streets?
That's what you call nonverbal communication.
Drops the girlfriend off to go get hammered while he goes and robs people blindly with a gun.
Well, it was his turn to pay the rent.
One of the victims had an app to track her phone and help police find Saavedra.
There's a gun.
When they pulled over his car, they found the ghost gun, a magazine with ammunition, and the victim's purses, IDs, keys, and credit cards.
You know, it's only California where we constantly talk about how tough we want to be on guns, except when there's a criminal with one.
And this isn't what you would call circumstantial evidence.
You can sit down if you want.
Okay.
The evidence against Saavedra included a jailhouse call.
I did an armed robbery. You robbed somebody? Yes.
Also, not what you would call circumstantial evidence.
You robbed somebody? Yes. You pointed a gun at him? Yes.
So he has admitted it.
Things aren't looking too good for Gerardo.
A jury found Saavedra guilty of 5 counts of armed robbery with a firearm enhancement. The district attorney's office asked for a sentence of 23 years, 8 months in state prison.
When you talk about armed robbery, we are talking about a type of crime that truly, truly puts lives at risk.
The probation department's pre-sentence report recommended a 15-year sentence, but the public defender argued Saavedra is a first-time offender.
You know, first-time offender doesn't matter if your first-time offending is pointing a gun at 5 women while robbing them.
After cocking it.
But the public defender argued Saavedra is a first-time offender, that he was pressured to commit the robberies by an older adult.
What?
Oh, yeah. And if you put him in prison, then he'll never be able to realize his dream as an internationally recognized soccer star.
The next Pele, he's not.
That he was pressured to commit the robberies by an older adult, and that he should get out on...
Wait, why should that matter?
Gerardo is not a child, correct?
He is not.
He was married or had a girlfriend?
Girlfriend.
Okay, yeah, of course they're living in sin. But he's an adult. He's over 18.
Yes. But apparently he was pressured into armed robbing a whole bunch of women in San Francisco.
By an older man. So what, we're talking about someone in their 70s if the guy's over 18?
That he was pressured to commit the robberies by an older adult, and that he should get out on probation right away. No more jail time.
He's the perfect person.
So the DA wants 23 years. The probation department, which is pretty lenient, says 15 years. The public defender says he should get out now.
I don't blame the public defender. That's your job. Your job is to go advocate for your client. And if that's what your client wants you to do and you think you've got a shot because the judge is dumb or politically extreme of getting your client the best deal possible, you're supposed to do that. I don't fault the public defender at all. If the judge buys into it, then the judge has no brain cells left.
He's the perfect person for that. They could come up with a plan. They could do what San Franciscans pay him to do, which is give resources, right?
What resources does the armed robber need to get his life together?
That's a good question.
Set up a comprehensive plan.
At the hearing Wednesday, Judge Brian Farrell gave Saavedra 4 years, 8 months in state prison. With time served, he could be back on the streets in less than 2 years.
And so that's...
For armed robbery of 5 different women in one night.
Imagine if one of those women screamed, or if the guy panicked because one of the women started running away and he opened fire on them. You could have 5 dead people.
And so that's telling you that the courts are signaling that there's not much value being placed on even violent crime in San Francisco. And so that serves as a lack of...
You know what's funny, too? You would be declared to be anti-woman if you told some sort of joke that was deemed to be sexist. And they would roast you all over television and all over social media, and you would be canceled. But if you point a gun at 5 women and you put their lives at risk, you're fine. It doesn't matter. All of these people claiming to be for women's rights or claiming to be for protected classes or whatever the case may be, they're totally full of it. Because when you have someone out there who is a predator who victimizes them and you have the opportunity to do something about it and you don't do it, well, it doesn't matter how many jokes that you think are insensitive that you can wag your finger at people for telling them. That doesn't make you a good person. In fact, you're a bad person if you take someone like this and you give them the opportunity to victimize more innocent people.
That serves as a lack of an incentive for people not to come here and commit those acts.
Public Defender Elizabeth Camacho told the court she'll be appealing under the Racial Justice Act, saying minorities receive harsher punishments.
Oh, God.
Wait, so she's saying that this totally lenient sentence was still too harsh because of racism?
Yes.
I've officially heard it all.
Saying minorities receive harsher punishments. Camacho also accused Judge Farrell of racial bias against both her, a Mexican-American, and her client.
So the judge who gave this guy the biggest slap on the wrist possible is now being accused of being a racist for putting him in prison at all.
Good. Give him a taste of his own medicine.
Camacho also accused Judge Farrell of racial bias against both her, a Mexican-American, and her client, complaining about his skepticism and facial expressions and tone when making comments that can't be captured by the record.
I don't know if you can sue over that.
It's California. Why not? And guess what? If they found a judge dumb enough to give him that kind of sentence, they'll find one dumb enough to find that the first one was racist too.
He gave my client kind of a look. Can you explain the look? You know, it was like a look.
You told the judge right to his face that you felt as though he was making faces, using an inappropriate tone with you that was indicative of racial bias.
I don't want to talk about that specifically because that is also a point that's being litigated.
Who are we hiring in these public defenders' offices?
Well, I mean, look, like I said before, this woman is doing her job. If you can come up with any ridiculous argument that people are dumb enough to buy that will benefit your client, go for it.
That's at the next.
The crazy ones are us. The crazy ones are appointing judges like this and entertaining these idiotic arguments in the first place.
Well, and you look at these judge elections that happen locally in places like L.A. and San Francisco, and there are so many Superior Court judges that are running that it says they either were a prosecutor or the public defender. And lately, a lot of money is going behind all the public defenders becoming judges.
But even those markers aren't good enough because George Gascon was technically a prosecutor, but I wouldn't want him as a judge.
Oh, don't.
Kamala Harris was a prosecutor. I would never want her as a judge either. Pamela Price.
Don't give anybody any ideas, Johnny.
That's at the next hearing. Now, Jenkins argues this case could have turned out like Ricky Pearsall. The 49er shot last August because a robber wanted his Rolex. But it appears that night, Saavedra did not have bullets in his ghost gun, though he did have a magazine with bullets in his jacket pocket at the time. So,
still armed robbery.
I would love to know who the women that had the gun pointed at them voted for.
They consider that to be a loaded weapon if you have the bullets right there.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you, Dan.
There's the latest on yet another judge giving yet another criminal a very light sentence, and apparently he's a racist for it.
I love the fact that they all turn on one another eventually. You can never be pure enough for them. And I'm sure that judge regards himself as a liberal Democrat who's all for social justice and equity and all the other buzzwords. And the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for putting all of the public at risk in the name of his extreme ideology was to be called a racist. Good. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
We get lots of requests at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com for some of the drops that you hear on the show. And Nicholas writes in and wants to hear the Queen do her best impression of Shangy.
And we still got our Oakland A's, baby.
No, you don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely.